I come to my recollections of Dr. Du Bois as a child. He was a friend of my father's, along with many others who were called in that day scholars. But I did not see them as scholars. I hadn't grown enough to recognize that these men, and they were mainly men who visited and collaborated and what have you. And I just thought everybody was just a teacher. That was it. I was a teacher. You see, in those days, faculty lived on the campuses. That was part of their salary, by the way. And they were gorgeous houses. And the rooms were built for them to engage in these scholarly talks that made no sense to me, although I was listening, but it didn't make any sense. It was not until, get this, that I finished college that it came to me the richness of which I had sat in and grew up in terms of the intellectual world. It was also interesting to me that when Bois went to Ghana, my father was living in Liberia. And guess what? They continued their friendship. One going to Ghana and one going to Liberia and vice versa. So that is my connection with Du Bois. As I read The College-Bred Negro and The Common School, again I found myself tracing back to my childhood. Because what I found there wrote up recollections of the things that I heard about my great-great-grandmother, my great-grandfather, I did know him, and my grandfather. Because the things that the conference talked about were things that they had discussed about their educational ventures. My great-great-grandmother was from Nigeria. She was an Igbo. And she was what they called in that day a slave nigger, a house nigger. And somehow, I don't know all the details, but I do remember them saying that her madam taught her how to read, write, and cipher. And of course, this was very illegal during that day, and the recordings in the conferences cite this. And what my great-great-grandmother did, she went and taught the other slaves in her community the same skills that she had acquired. And it looks like it just went on and on and on. Wouldn't that be beautiful if we would continue that kind of sharing today? Then I learned about my father and mother going to the common school. And most of these schools were developed by religious groups. And then I learned that my mother's father, and this is not too far from Atlanta, but this occurred way back then. He was very fortunate. He came in from Brazil. And guess what? Somehow, I don't know how he got his money, but he was involved in cotton, and cotton was hot. And he decided to use his resources to build a school with the community and hire teachers so that not only his children, but the children in the community could grow and have an education. And guess where many of them went to? The Negro College, as they called it. They came here to this center to learn. Now, I must admit, I get very, very emotional when I think about this. I look at how things have changed. These people in today were united. They were self-determined. They were determined that they were going to succeed. I'm not too sure that kind of spirit lives today. It looks like we have decided. You remember we finally left the "we" after the Civil Rights Movement. And it came up to looking out for number one, the "I." And it seems to me we are still there with the "I." Now, yes, we have integrated our schools, I'm going to say in quotes. Our young people today don't know much about how fortunate they are, because we have allowed other things to come into the mix. What are some of those other things? Instead of giving care, love, and giving them a sense of responsibility, we have put emphasis on things. And it has become progressive because now their attentions are on the phone. They walk down the street, sharing their conversations with the world. They go to the computer. Now, I'm not talking about the computer for learning's sake. I'm talking about the game plan and the entertainment plan, because I must admit now, I came into the computer world very slowly, because my father, who was 70, was a whiz at it, and I wasn't, didn't care anything about it. But I also learned that there was great value in learning power if you used it correctly. I don't know whether you're aware of it now, but this world is even going further. Have you heard about the robots who are in the factories, taking up the jobs? Which means that we are going to have a change in our curriculum and a look. Now let's look at the curriculum that happened and I think you know what I mean when I said today. In the colleges, language was there. In fact, I got real tickled thinking about this because one of the things that I found among my father's things was Hebrew and Greek and Latin. My mother, she knew Latin. Language was the thing. Literature, the history, not just U.S. history, but the world history was emphasized. Math, not just algebra, but they were into calculus and geometry. In fact, geometry was really ahead of calculus. So what we did, we brought in other things, but we have not treated them and looked at them as commodities for use in the world. You remember the saying, leave no child behind? They're behind. They're behind. I got to cut off. When you laugh, I have to laugh too because they say I'm funny. Let me say this. In order for us to improve, we've got to help our parents. We've got more helicopter parents than I've ever seen before. At the college level, they come in and they don't want to go home. They're still trying to guide. But we are going to have to look at the finances, which have not changed. We're going to have to look at our curriculum in terms of what's going on in the world today. We're going to have to guide our students to succeed and to develop good self-concepts in order for them to further succeed. I'm not saying they're not succeeding now, but they could do better. So that's where I am today.